We started taking over the business from my parents in the late 80s, early 90s. So the partnership now is my brother, sister, and I. I'm the youngest, and I kind of do all the PR work and setting up. My brother does a lot of the production, and my sister spends the money.
So for this logging operation, there were 3 different bird species that required protection under the Oregon Forest Practices rules. So there was an osprey, there was a northern spotted owl, and then also marbled murrelet habitat in the area. So they had to work in the outside of the nesting season in order to protect those species. And there was also a large type F stream, a fish-bearing stream. So the birds require temporal restriction periods, and in order to not have daily timing restrictions on the operation, they had to move their operation into the off-season when the birds aren't nesting. And so they did that. They operated between October and were out of here before February.
Well, the environmental constraints here were always an issue here. Starting an operation with cutting and flagging here is October 1, and knowing you're going to have to finish here before February. And in February, it was an awful narrow window, especially in the winter. But anyway, D&H was willing to take on those risks and operate here, and that shows the strength of their operation when you can take on those kind of narrow windows and constraints and then finish ahead of time. We finished there, I think, somewhere around January 6th. So we were well ahead of plan here.
We wanted to make sure we had to hang in certain areas so we weren't knocking any limbs out that the marbled murrelet like to nest in. So we were real careful on not damaging any nesting type ground or any nesting type limbs, timber that would be there.
So when they were downhill logging this, they had full suspension over the unit. They didn't disturb hardly any soil at all within the operation area. So that left a slash mat over the unit, no soil compaction. There wasn't any sedimentation issues with the stream. They were careful to not operate within the RMA, the buffer area. And so that the stream was essentially untouched and unharmed from this operation.
We do our best to try to comply with all regulations. I've seen it all. I've been in the days where we clean cricks, and I've been in the days where we put stuff back in cricks. So it's a learning game, and everybody's learning as we go what works best for the environment.
We had some old growth stuff here. The biggest tree here was about 62 inches in diameter. But anyway, we had some big second growth scattered in these stands, up to about 42 inches scattered in it. And of course, a really selection of 24 inch and down scattered in it with a tremendous amount of myrtle and maple and mixed species here, which is very common on these kind of tougher sites here.
They also were working in very steep, rocky terrain, so that was a safety hazard for the crew.
That job on Camp Creek there, next to Mill Creek, was probably in the top 10% of some of the hardest work jobs that we've done.
I mean, with all these factors in play, you have to have somebody that's very, very much on his A game, or it's not going to work very well for you.
They also, instead of yarding most of it uphill, they used a downhill yarding practice, which is also more dangerous for the loggers.
But if you went up on top and looked at the size of the landings, they're very small. And to deal with it, trying to pull those big logs up over them bluffs would have been very, very difficult. So the majority of the whole unit went down.
And then we came in and looked at it and decided we would try it. And anyway, after doing one portion or one setting of it, it worked very well. The results were very positive, and were only positive because of the workmanship of the contractor D&H. Yeah, the other big concern for us and the safety issue here was the main road. We have a complete main paved road here that runs through. It's a through road, comes out over in the Elkton area. Full-time flaggers were enforced here from the beginning of the cutting operation right through the logging operation. So there was 2 flaggers here, one on each end with radio communication with the loggers and the cutting contractor at all times.
And we actually hauled up some bark out of one of the mill yards and put it on the pavement so we could park the equipment on it. So we tried to do less damage to the pavement, and that worked real well.
But with absolute control that D&H has, you can have confidence in them doing what they say they're going to do. And of all the times that we were here, we didn't have one complaint from anybody
crew's going to do the right thing, and they don't have to be out here babysitting. And neither does the state forestry. We'll do what we can. If I got a problem, I'll call. So that's kind of how we run our business.